right to it. We've been off the air since last spring, and a lot of things have happened in sports. Some of the sports news has given us reason to celebrate, and some of the sports news has been very sad. We lost some great people who had made their mark in their playing and coaching days this past summer. From this broadcast, Coach Ray Trail passed away. He was a large part of this Sports Page radio show for over 25 years, and he left quite a legacy. Here right beside me in the chair on my right, he was an all-Southwest Conference lineman at Arkansas, played for Frank Broyles, offensive line coach at UT in the latter 60s and 70s, and what a great coach he was for the Volunteers. Tony Iruli, it was a sad summer losing Coach Trail.
Yeah, I miss him to this day. I mean, it was so much fun being around him, and the amount of jokes and laughters we had over the 20-some years he was with us. And, you know, he was a legend on the field and off the field.
Yeah.
And, you know, we used to laugh all the time. We were always worried about, well, sometimes some of the things that Coach Trail would say, are we still on the air or not? And, you know, but he brought great insight and knowledge to the game. He just he loved being around us, and we loved being around him. And it was so sad for him to be here. And you know, along with Coach Hersbrun, who passed several years ago. I mean, those are two legends that just I greatly miss a lot.
Yeah, Donnie Moore, you were around for most of the 25 years plus that he was on this show, and
I was
never a dull moment, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, you never knew what Coach Trail was going to say next, but it was going to be good.
Yes, it was.
You knew that.
Yeah. And Marcus, you know, I can see him walking through the door, you know, this morning, you know. I felt like I needed to look for him, you know, coming through there with his cigar in his mouth and his cowboy hat. And
I'd have been a bit surprised if he had.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. I'd have loved to have seen it, but it caught me a little bit off guard to see it.
We're just wishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we had some other great people pass along, too. Bill Walton, you know, what a great player he was at UCLA and in the professional ranks. He left us. Willie Mays, Tony, golly, you know, you don't see many players could make that basket catch like Willie could. I don't know if anybody even really tried it, but he made it look easy.
Well, with me growing up in the 60s and early 70s, I mean, Willie Mays was one of the two or three. Him and Mickey Mantle. I loved Bob Gibson. You know, and to lose a legend like that, I mean, and he was such a great representative of the game.
Oh yeah,
during his career and after his career,
he was the total package. He could field, he could hit, he could run, he could do it all.
Yeah. And a good guy. Yeah. And you know, and that, you know, people like that, like Willie, it's hard to come around very often. And you know, he was absolutely a wonderful person.
Yeah. Orlando Cepeda left us. What a great player he was with the Giants, and I believe the Cardinals.
Cardinals, grew up a Cardinal fan. Great first baseman, and for them, and he was with Cepeda and Mays, and you know, some of those San Francisco Giants. I mean, they were just legendary in those days.
Yeah. We said goodbye to some other great basketball players. Jerry West, what a great player he was for the Lakers in West Virginia. And Chet Walker, basketball great for Philadelphia. Left us Jim Otto from a football standpoint. I think he played center, didn't he, for the Oakland Raiders?
Center and linebacker. He was double zero.
Yeah, double zero.
Yes, sir.
And you move over to golf, Chichi Rodriguez.
He was always fun to watch. You didn't care what his score was, or if he got a birdie or a par or a bogey. I mean, he was just fun to be watch him play, and his mannerisms, and he was another legend, absolutely.
Probably the most flamboyant golfer I've ever seen.
Yeah, he put on a show with the Matador deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was a real crowd pleaser,
and opened up professional golf to Hispanics.
Yeah,
across the world. And
exactly.
All that. And so him and Lee Trevino, absolutely.
Yeah. And then from the racing world, Parnelli Jones, you know, the 1963 winner from the Indianapolis 500, left us. And I think the first guy to go 150 miles an hour, I'll never forget that day when he went 150. My dad said, they'll never go any faster than that. That's as fast as they'll ever go at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You've seen it all when you've seen this today.
Yeah, that's the pace car speed now, isn't
it? Yeah. Anyway, people drive to the track at 150 mile an hour, especially if they're late. Well, anyway, those are all
Marcus.
giants of the game, and we'll miss all of them.
We just lost everything up here.
Hello?
Keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I got you.
All right, Donnie Moore, we're having kind of interruptions here. Technology can be a wonderful thing, but anyway, Donnie Moore, I've got a short letter rip this morning, so
Okay, buddy.
we'll go ahead and go with it.
Have at it.
Tony Aruli, I want
Okay.
you to step in here too. I'm over these early season mismatches. Power five teams
boy.
Yeah.
against these FCS opponents, boring and boring and more boring. Great crowd at Tennessee last Saturday. Fans were all fired up and electric, and my golly, before the game it looked like we were playing a top-notch SEC school, maybe Florida or Alabama or whatever. And by golly, at halftime they'd had enough. Boy, that stadium cleared out of there like
It sure did.
like in droves.
Yeah,
I just don't know what is exciting about somebody coming into a stadium and it's inferior and getting their ever-loving brains beat out.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I mean, and the scores were so horrendous. I mean, we're looking at 70 points, 60 points put up against these teams, and
And they're pulling out the first and second teams even in the
just-
third quarter. Yes, you expect it, but it's disappointing seeing it. Chattanooga, and the thing is this: you're expecting those schools playing like a Tennessee for a big payday.
Oh, yeah.
But UTC only got $550,000
yeah.
to play Tennessee. Western Kentucky, who lost to Alabama about 60-0, they got paid $1.9 million.
Yeah, they got almost $2 million.
to play Alabama. So
Then you got Tennessee Tech down at Georgia today.
Oh,
Oh, my
Fifth-
gosh.
what,
Are they going to have
56?
enough ambulances down
Yeah,
there to haul those
yeah.
guys off?
56-point dog.
I
And
don't.
that's not even a good team either.
No, that's
Yeah.
Georgia.
At least Chattanooga and Western Kentucky, they're good teams in their
40,
division.
about a 45.
I don't know. I know in high schools bullying's a big thing, but I think
Oh,
in
man.
college athletics bullying's a big thing too.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's really what it is.
Yeah.
They're just bullying these teams to death.
But I'll say honestly though, then when you see these teams when they hit the SEC schedule, and you look at their schedule, some of these teams. I mean, it's brutal going through the SEC.
Well,
Unlike,
I want
It is.
I want them to go to the 9 SEC
I think so.
games. I want them to go to 9 SEC games, and you look at Tennessee's schedule there. They got Chattanooga, Kent State, UTEP, and then, my Lord, you throw in Vanderbilt and Kentucky, who they pretty well whip year in and year out, and
It's 5
Mississippi
wins.
State's not supposed to be very good. So you got 6
Six right
wins.
there.
You got
Yeah.
6 wins right there before we even start talking about anybody else, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But hey, let's talk about some.
You feel better now?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
got it.
feel a lot better. But there's still a bunch of those games today, so I'm not going to feel much better when I go to bed tonight because I'm going to see those scores and
man.
At least it's going to open up here at noon with Michigan, Texas.
Yes, sir.
That's
everybody looks forward to those games, and there were some big games last week.
Last week,
That's what everybody looks forward to, is to seeing those big games, and
Sure.
and watching them. Some good news. By golly, hats off to Tony Vitello and his Tennessee Vol baseball team, who won a national championship, and what a great sports story that was. This baseball team put it all together in the World Series. They made the big plays in the field. They got the key hits, outstanding pitching when they needed it, and, of course, excellent guidance from the head guy, Tony Vitello, and they brought home a national championship. And Marcus Fitzsimmons, great accomplishment for that baseball team.
It was, and it was a lot of fun. I think on everybody's side, just to watch Tennessee go through that, it was exciting. People tuned in. It was some of the highest ratings the CWS has had.
Sure.
Even though it was all SEC and ACC, everybody was all worried about that. Well, it turns out there's a lot of baseball fans in the SEC and ACC, and they all
believe it.
tuned in. But just what's going on with that program and what Coach Vitello has done, there are some people who might squawk a little that he's now the highest paid college baseball coach in the country, but I think he's earned every penny of it.
Don't know why they would.
no.
Look at the results.
Not just a national championship, but you've got a team that's not it's going to graduate some good players. It's lost some players in the draft, but it's still poised to be competitive at the national level next year. The stadium has grown by leaps and bounds the last 5 years as they've made improvements at his insistence. I mean, that program is kind of I don't know how much they share across the world beyond what we know as a public, but that's a blueprint of how to make yourself into a power program.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you think with him winning that national championship in baseball that it's going to carry over in the other sports this year? Do you think it's just going to help them?
I think when you've got something that good going on campus,
Can't hurt.
It can be infectious, but it bleeds over into so many things. It changes your attitude about spring. It changed, like you've got guys wondering, man, I hope we can get done with practice so we can go see the baseball game.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And as a recruiting tool to have that kind of energy on campus, even if you have to bring people in on a non-game day, like if you're bringing in a basketball crew who's just doing a campus visit or something by, that sort of stuff bleeds through.
Sure. And what I like about it is this: it makes Tennessee athletics complete throughout the entire year. It's not just, hey, we're a football dominant program right here. All right, the heck with what happens in the basketball and in the spring. But, you look at the success with football, with the men's and women's basketball, with baseball, and that's not including, your golf programs, your tennis programs, all that. Right now, it's University of Tennessee athletically is in a very good spot right now.
Yeah, life's good over there, Tony.
Yeah,
life's real
absolutely.
good, and the great thing from a fan standpoint is the fact that you can go through the football season and relish in all of that.
Yeah.
And then, hey, we got basketball coming up. Looks like we're going to have a pretty good year in basketball. And you turn right around and go, hey, baseball looks pretty good. You're pretty well filled up all year long.
And let's not forget about softball, too, because they've been very dominant as well.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I want to go back to this World Series and I don't want to put a damper on all this because, when things go right, they go right. But, the very first game, as you go back, they were playing Florida State. They were down 11-7. It didn't look really good. Came back a little bit, got into the ninth inning, got the tying run on second base, had Blake Burke up the bat with 2 outs. He had a 2-2 count. And, boy, it looked like he had a third strike on him when he, went around there. And that third base umpire, he was – I don't know whether he was ready to raise his arm or not. But, Tony Vitale had come out there on that field, just a little bit before that and had argued, a call. And that guy over there just said, hey, I'm not going to decide this game. And, from a fan standpoint, I think, really that's the way it probably should have been. Hey, let's decide it on the field.
Yeah.
But, boy, when you go back and you look at where that bat was when they stopped it in a photograph, I'm telling you, that was a big play because if they make that call, that sends Tennessee to the losers bracket, and that creates a whole lot of different scenarios.
Sure.
They still could have come out of that because I think they were the best team out there, but it would have been a lot tougher.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever you have a run like Tennessee has, there's one or two really defining moments throughout that entire tournament, and that is one of the defining moments. Because now it takes Tennessee in a whole different route where now they got maybe a morning game the next day.
And that's what I'm saying. When you're going for national championships in any sport, may it be football, basketball, baseball, whatever, everything's got to fit in there, and there's some luck involved. There's some good things. And by golly, they had a lot of things that fell their way. Key hits and plays in the field. It was if you win a national championship in a sport and you did it the way they did with all the great plays and all the key hits, man, you got to feel good about that, huh?
Well, you do, and we're going to talk. The swing is going to go down, and there's a school that's going to continually play that over and over and say that was why they didn't win it. But that's not why they didn't win it. And I'm not going to argue the call. I could argue that call either way, and that's why I think it's a good no call in this, because it was in that position it's going to decide a game. That's why I think you make a no call in that decision and go and lean the way that they went. But the rest of those pieces that came together, because he can't play the next game. Like, we lose the center fielder the next game after that collision at the wall that everybody watched. You have to stick somebody else out there. You have guys who are stepping up, making key hits that were like in the regionals and super regionals, what was he, 0 for 19, and he goes 6 for 12 in the series. You know, there were a lot of key pieces from a lot of players. It wasn't 9 guys. It was, I mean, there were probably 20 names that you can put in the course of that CWS that you could say had a key point at some point in there.
Yep. And, leaving baseball here, you got Danny White. You mentioned how they're doing in all the other sports, and we've talked about that.
Yep.
And they've upped his salary to $2.75 million, and what a job he's done. What a job he's done over there with that athletic program as far as all around.
Well, of course, his big move now is he had to make a change for the women's basketball team.
Yeah.
And so it's new leadership. Of course, that's always tough with especially when the former coach was an alum of Tennessee, and he felt like he had to make that move where the Tennessee women's program was not meeting the expectations.
Yeah.
And so
that was a tough call.
Tough call, absolutely was a tough call.
Well, let's talk a little bit about UT football. Last week they got underway. They defeated Chattanooga 69-3, and Chattanooga was really outmatched from the very beginning. It was just I don't know. If you're going to play Chattanooga, or you're going to play Austin Peay, or you're going to play I don't know, Middle Tennessee State or East Tennessee State, and I'm not knocking any of them, but I guess I'd rather see them in a spring game. You know what I'm saying? Rather than being on the schedule. Tony, your impressions of that opener, and what impressed you about Tennessee, if you could tell anything at all?
Well, I think the main thing was, again, their quarterback, the experience that, him. This is now his team, all right, and they've had they spent the preseason, trying to develop. They got a new batch of wide receivers there, and they're trying to increase the talent level right there. But Tennessee going in a game like that, they want to get their first team guys, enough reps, but try to develop your second team guys throughout the second half of the game, and also work on the special teams. So you wish it was a little better competition and all that, but we're not going to be worried about the competition as soon as we hit the SEC.
Yeah.
But it's kind of what you go through, through all the major.
Yeah, I mean, you can say, well, Chattanooga, but it's one of those deals where pretty much everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
So, Marcus, Nico, 300-plus passing yards the first half. Did he check all the boxes as far as you're concerned? He checked all the boxes with me. I mean, I was impressed from the first play was out there till they took him out. I guess at the halftime, he looked like he met the expectations for a home opener as far as I'm concerned.
Well, in the qualification that for playing a good FCS team, he checked the boxes for beating an FCS team the way you should beat an FCS team. So I like that, and I judge that in the way that the offense ran and the way it was effective. What I really liked, and what I thought was missing, and what he may be has the potential to be the best at of the quarterbacks we've seen under Heupel, is to throw the ball down the middle. And that short 10, 15-yard crossing pattern, he can make that throw. He can put it location-wise where it needs to be. And that was something
and he did.
That was not Milton's strong point. And, even before that, Hooker could do it, but he did. I don't think he had that kind of touch with it where the guys are not – like guys made plays on the ball for Hooker. They didn't have to make plays. That ball was right where they needed it to be about 90% of the time. And allowed them to pick up the extra 10 yards because they weren't making a jump or coming back or anything like that. And
Tony, in stride. He hit him in stride, where they could use their running ability to make the extra yard.
I went over to UT to watch a couple of spring practices, and what impressed me, Nico, he's 6'5", 6'6". He's tall.
He looks like a basketball player. He didn't know he was
really
a quarterback.
does. I mean, he's long-armed, long-legged, And he has no problem standing in that pocket because
Yeah,
he's got a great view downfield, which now allows him to throw that ball over the middle in the dig routes and the crossing routes over the middle. And that's exactly what you said. I think that has increased his value to the team being able to hit in those type of routes. Because I know for us defensively, when we see a quarterback has problems throwing over the middle, well, we try to emphasize a little bit more, working on the outside coverage for our defense. And so he had a good start, and he got to work. And I believe he broke an all-time Tennessee record for most yards ever
for a half.
But you hit that thing is last season things kind of sputtered when defenses were playing the fact that if it wasn't going to be the running back, it was going to be a throw 20, 25 yards downfield to the outside. When you don't have to cover that middle area and worry about the pass coming behind you, your linebackers can do a lot more if you've got the right kind of linebackers.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what got Tennessee in trouble against some really good teams was they could take advantage of that because they weren't worried about the 10-yarder going up right behind them.
Correct. And now he shows the ability to hit those routes, we call mesh routes and crossing routes, which a lot of teams do, and him being able to stand in the pocket and and just disregard some of the pressure and all that. I mean, it just kind of opens up a door for that pass. It doesn't matter if it's against Tennessee, against Chattanooga or any other team, throwing over for 300 yards in a half. That's pretty dang good.
Yeah, we focused on Nico right here, but they had a tailback right there that had a pretty good game too, Sampson.
Yep.
He had a big time game, and that's encouraging to have a running back in his caliber. And it looks like the offensive line may be a little bit better than everybody thought they might be. Huh?
Plus, I like the name for the running back named Sampson. That brings.
That sounds like a guy that could take control, huh?
He could probably
maybe push some guys around.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, you hate to talk about playoffs. We've only played one game as far as Tennessee's concerned, but. And you always have to be concerned about injuries and so forth. But do we have a 3-game schedule here? I mean, as far as the playoffs, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Georgia, you got to win, maybe one of those or maybe 2 of them to guarantee yourself into the 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
Is that what it boils down to or not? I mean, I don't see anybody else on here that, if you're thinking playoffs –
those are the main 3.
I think so. Sure, and I think you got to win. I think you got to win 2 of them to guarantee a spot in there.
Right.
If you run the table on everybody else, and if you lose 2, it might be marginal, depending on who you get right here. But what do you think?
I think they got to win at least one of them, and get themselves in that playoff picture. Again, it's great that they've finally gone to a 12-team playoff, so it's a little bit. Different right now, and being able to do that, and I think Tennessee, should be right about there, and but if they're able to beat one of those 3 teams, I think it gets them in.
Do you think the season's going to be judged on whether you with this team? I mean, this team's got a lot of hype. I mean, I don't know whether it's fair or not, but everybody's fired up around here, and it's Nico City, and this team, and is it going to be? Is it going to be? Hey, if we don't make the playoffs, it's going to be a little bit disappointing. Is that the mentality right now?
My thoughts is I think I think it's just a little bit too much hype right now because Nico is still unproven. He had that good job in the bowl game. But he's still, in my view, a rookie quarterback, and and how he develops is going to determine on the success of Tennessee this season.
Yeah. Tony, Tennessee played Chattanooga the first game, but there were some big games. Clemson played Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, right out of the gate. And Florida played Miami, and not too good for the 2 coaches at Clemson in Florida, the way that turned out. Notre Dame went to Texas A&M, played down there in front of, 107,000 people down there, and came out of that. LSU and Southern Cal, and you had Penn State and West Virginia.
Yeah.
If Coach Trail's here, he's going to say, hey, I like to play a big game right out of the gate because I want to know what I got.
Boston College beat Florida State. So as a Catholic, it was a good week for us.
From a football coaching standpoint, would you prefer to been in that big game scenario right out of the gate or not?
I would prefer in a way, not to be in that big game from the very beginning, because I like to have my team, at least before I hit one of those big major games, to at least have a game that's going to get my team a little bit of a warm-up preseason. In a way, it's called a preseason game. But to play that type of game, I think it helps them out. But like I said, there was, for last Saturday, there was really good games last Saturday.
They really were. And I was really surprised at the defense on a lot of these games. They weren't real high-scoring games. In the past, we're used to teams putting up 50 and 50 plus points offense. And
I had a discussion with the person. I think defenses, it's been several years, has kind of caught up to what the offenses are doing, where the offenses nowadays they're 4 or 5 wide receivers, they're doing mesh routes, a lot of crossing routes, everything like that, high-tempo type offense. And usually when the style of offense has changed, it takes several years for defenses to be able to catch up to it. And so what I'm seeing right now are teams starting to play a little bit better defenses, matching up to what the offenses have been doing. And so I think you're going to see that a little bit more this year.
Yeah. Hey, this UT segment has been sponsored by the Cherokee Group and the Murphy's Bobcat. And Donnie Moore, we're commercial free. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We're commercial free today.
We have no commercials this week.
So all right, let's go.
Yeah, technology has left commercials on the side. So, if you're looking for a sports program that's not going to have any commercials, I'd love to see a football game on Saturday on TV with no commercials, wouldn't you? Or a basketball game.
All I know is this. They're making such a big deal about the 2-minute warning, all right, new to college football. And it's what a great thing. They're worried about the health of the play. No. That has nothing to do with it. It's another opportunity to get 2 minutes worth of commercials. Yeah. That's the only reason why they have that 2-minute warning now in college, because it's
And so we're not going to have it. They're not going to have our little commercial transitions we're used to. That's what we're telling our listeners.
Right.
So because we started a little bit late, Donnie, I'm going to ask if I can steal in front of the headlines, because we've got some guests here.
Sure.
I want to get them out close to when we promised we could.
That's
okay.
Good enough.
It's all yours.
I'll do headlines after.
So,
go ahead, Marcus. Marcus Fitzsimmons from the Daily Times, folks.
If you're tuning in on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, your view just changed to our 3 guests this morning. We have Maryville Christian's soccer team visiting with us. Victorious with a big win over a big public school this week. 2-1 win at William Blount on Mike Whitefield's new artificial surface. Coach, thanks for coming in this morning. And Donnie's going to hit the buttons because we're still getting back in the swing of things.
All right, now you're good.
Okay, am I on now?
You are. There he is.
Go for it.
Okay, so, Coach, how big was this? How big a win was that to beat William Blount?
It's always a big win when you can beat a big school. And, we are a small school, but we've always been blessed with, I think, with talent that comes in. And so we look forward to that game every year, because if we get a chance to win that game, then I don't know. That's like us winning playoffs. So we did. We worked really hard at that game, and told them beforehand. And our thing with everything is always going to be effort. Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do with all your heart, do it with all your heart as unto God. And so as long as we give effort and give everything we've got, leave everything on the field, you can always walk off the field knowing there was nothing else you could have done. You're going to make mistakes. Every game you're going to make mistakes. But if we can make less and less of those and learn how to shoot correctly with the right form, all those things, when they come together. And in that game, they really held strong and did a good job. So we came out with a win there, and then, we had 2 days to celebrate, read the paper, and everybody enjoy that. Then we had to stop that and get back to business because we got other games to play. So.
Well, you've got 2 players you brought with you. So give us an introduction for both of them and where they play and what they're bringing to the program.
Okay, this is Haley, not in my house, okay? Name's Haley House. This is our goalkeeper this year, and she had, 11 saves and during the game against William Blount. And this is our captain, one of our center backs, Sophie Rigsby, and she led the charge for our defense against William Blount, which had to hold strong for for a long time because William Blount is really good. They've been doing really good this year. Love their coaches, and they had a really good, strong offense. Just keep coming at us, and they've got really good athletes. But our defense was able to hold them off for a long time and got 3 really good shots on goal that were pretty much on the mark, and that's what you got to have. So,
Well, Haley, how stressful was it for you in there?
During the game, I honestly didn't feel a lot of stress. I felt like the Lord was giving me a peace that in the game I wasn't like really paying attention to how stressed I was. But after I looked back at the game, I could just see the Lord like giving me a peace during the game just to be able to focus on the ball and focus on keeping it out of the goal.
As a keeper, is it more difficult for you when you're playing on artificial surface because the ball's moving a bit faster? Or is it a little bit easier because it's pretty uniform and there's not that little rock or bump over there that's going to change the ball's direction on you?
It was definitely easier to track the ball on the turf because, like you said, it wasn't bouncing around. So I did like playing on the turf. It was a lot of fun, and it was definitely easier for me to keep my eye on the ball and just tell where it was going, and it didn't change directions unless someone kicked it. So.
And what was you gave up the 1 goal.
Yes.
Just the 1. But you didn't let that impact you from that point forward. Do you just shake off when the goal comes in, or does it take a couple minutes for Haley to reset?
It takes just a second, but on my team they're so encouraging. They always have my back, and every time a goal gets in, they're like, "It's okay, Haley, you got this. Get back up." And just the fact that we were already winning the game was really encouraging. So I was like, "Okay, it's okay. It's 1 goal. We just can't let them get another one."
And are you the director of the defense, or is that somebody else in front of you?
I think that's more of Sophie's expertise. During certain kicks and certain plays, I'll try to like help give instructions, like, "Oh, I need you to get on that person," but that's definitely more of like Sophie's expertise.
And Sophie's over there like, "Uh-oh, they're coming to me now." So yes, it's time to put Sophie on the spot. So you shut down, like Coach said, you gave up a couple good shots, but you pretty much frustrated William Blount. How much of a challenge was that? What were you all looking to stop from what they were doing?
Well, I'd like to say it was a really easy game, just to say that, but it was honestly really difficult. It was definitely, like you said, it was really frustrating for them. Like, they were yelling at each other a little bit, and you could tell they were frustrated. Their student section was frustrated at us, but overall, I think we really just gave more effort, and that's what defined us at the end, and we played well together. And overall, it was like Haley really pulled out some really great saves. She had a PK save. That was great. And everybody, like I said before, was just playing well to their best, and that's what ended up breaking that tie.
But as a defender, you've got to feel good when you hear the other team getting frustrated. That's a sign you're doing your job right, isn't it?
Mm-hmm, a little bit. And I think we were all, sometimes it was frustrating for us as well, just because that's a really difficult game. But we stayed pretty level-headed, and that was a great game.
So, Haley kind of put you on the spot here as the director of the defense here. How much is management do you have to do on the field and on the pitch as to making adjustments with what teams are doing?
Well, being able to see the whole field really makes a difference, because I can yell at people and tell them where to be just so they know. And overall, like, that's what I'm doing. But there's also other people telling me where to be. There's people like Haley, not this Haley, but our other Haley, is telling us like where to be, where to line up. And you really everybody has to pay attention and know where the other players are.
Coach, it sounds like you've got some pretty key components sitting here right here with us today. But
Yeah.
give us some shout-outs because you had goal scorers as well in this game. Who got your goals for you? And
We did. We got a really strong defense. We've talked a lot about that with Mackenzie and Sydney and Haley in the middle with Sophie. But our midfield with Katie Whitehead and her sister Joey. So Joey was fouled about 1 million times in the game. And it's okay if I just throw that out there. And one of those, we got a free kick, and her sister Katie was able to take the free kick and put it in the corner. And I always know when she takes it that there's a good chance of us scoring that because she's really gifted at that. So that was our first goal. Our first shot came from Kenzie Brown. It was a really good play where we were doing a good job passing the ball with one of the few breakaways we had, and she hit the post. But our second goal, which helped us out, was we do have a middle schooler who plays up top. Her name's Grace Gita, and she stole the ball and broke away. And we had talked about it beforehand, but just was able to take a left-footed shot and put it in the corner just where the keeper couldn't get to it. Which, by the way, is what you're supposed to do.
Put it where the keeper can't get it.
That's right. That's right.
That seems to be right up there. I think we just lost a little bit of sound.
No, you're back.
Oh, okay, we're back.
You're back.
We still have some things ghosting the machine this morning. Coach, you're playing William Blunt, who's a neighbor, but you all are playing a lot of the public schools in the area. You're not limiting yourself to just what's in your athletic association. Does that present some challenges?
Sure, yeah. But it also helps us because we're playing all kinds of different levels of competition. So within a year, we'll play 13, 14 games, and we'll play some really difficult competition, and we'll play some other competition that's more closer to our size of school. But we get a good variety by doing that, and it really challenges us, which is what we want, you know. As a coach, I want to beat everybody by a lot because it keeps my stress level down. But the best thing you can ask for is a really close 2-1, 3-2, something game like that because that really promotes good competition.
Sure. So nobody's called yet and said, you know what, I just realized we had a scheduling conflict. Can we maybe postpone having y'all come
That
over?
has happened to us in the past, no joke. The first time we ever had a team, everybody scheduled us for their senior night. And when they didn't win the year after that, the only people that would answer the phone were pretty large schools that wanted to play us. So I take that as a compliment. But, you know, we've had, like I said, we've had good talent come through in a small school. So as much as I'd love to take credit for that, we're sitting here with Coach at Carson Newman, and he knows you can coach really good, but if you don't have the talent there, it's going to be hard to win those games.
Got to have the horses.
That's right. Both my kids go to Carson Newman, by the way. I went to Carson Newman, by the way. Go Eagles.
Go Eagles, yeah.
We're the Eagles, too.
That's right.
Well, we appreciate the Lady Eagles coming in this morning.
That's right.
Congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you getting up on a Saturday morning to come hang out with us because that may not be the top of every teenager's list. And we understand that, so we appreciate it. But again, congratulations on the win. Thanks for coming to visit. And Donnie, I think you want to go into headlines and tell us what happened on Friday night?
Indeed, we can do that.
All righty.
We can do that. Let me get – all right. Thank you. Let's move to the Mandy B. Street Realty local scoreboard, sponsored as always by Mandy B. Street Realty. Prep football, week 3. There were a few games in around the area last night of consequence here in Blount County. Thursday night was the Battle of the Bell. One of the biggest games of the season, right, Mike?
That's right. That bell, it's
an icon.
yeah. And William Blunt's kind of dominated that series, but
Yeah, that's true.
not so much Friday night.
No, not so much Friday night. Heritage High School comes in to to William Blount and gets the job done. Walks away with a 35-14 victory. We'll talk about that a little bit later, too.
Heritage has played well. They rebounded from the Maryville game. They went to South Doyle and won the previous week. And them going, and it was at William Blount. Them being able to come up with a win there. I mean, that says they've done a nice job getting them, they're back on track over there.
Got a strong defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, really strong defense. Right there's the problem. You have to turn it. All right, back to the scoreboard. We apologize for the technical difficulties once again. Oneida hosted Eagleton on Friday night, moving to Friday night's games, last night's games, and Oneida took a 13-0 win over Eagleton, shut the Royals out. Greenback went to Coalfield last night and also got shut out.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems and issues going over there at Greenback right now.
Yeah,
it's a shame where 6-7 years ago they won state championship 3 or 4 different times, and that was a strong, proud program, and they got a lot of mess that they got to try to get.
They do.
That's not a place to go to get well up at Coalfield either. They've had a strong program too up there.
The final score ended up being 60-0.
Yeah. They could care less what's going on over there at Greenback.
Yeah, exactly.
Come and try to pound you. I agree.
And Maryville had a revenge game last night. They got put out in the second round of the playoffs last season by Bradley Central, but talk about taking care of business.
Oh,
now.
They did.
The Rebels took care of business last night at home and beat Bradley Central 38-0.
I think it was 31-0 at half, wasn't it?
I think it was. I think they just kind of coasted the second half.
It was a revenge game because Bradley Central beat them twice last year.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And,
sure did.
So it knocked them out of the playoffs, and again, great job by Coach Hunt and the entire coaching staff over there getting their team ready. Nick Price is a neighbor of mine, and have they given up a point this year yet?
No, they have not.
3 games?
3 games, not giving up a point.
They know how to play defense over there, and that's great.
Well, you better believe it. And, Bradley Central put them out in the second round, which it's the first time in 20-something years that Maryville hasn't been to the semifinals of the state.
They got a lot to play for because last year they had a rough year. As far as Maryville football goes.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
So they got a lot to play. They got a lot to play for this year. A lot of incentive there.
And the problem was Bradley Central.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and so that's a great win by Derek, and very proud of that of the Rebels.
Kings Academy hosted Campbell County last night, and the Cougars of Campbell County came away with the win, 21-13.
Yeah.
Seymour hosted Northview Academy, another Sevier County team right there, and high scoring contest here. Seymour put up 35 points, Northview put up 41.
There you go.
So that was
a defensive struggle.
That was defensive struggle. You're exactly right.
Yes.
And that's going to do it for football scores for week 3. And in prep soccer, Alcoa, Heritage, and Maryville are playing this weekend in the Cleveland, Tennessee Classic. So
there you go.
Hope they all do well.
Yeah. Let me just say one thing. I went last night. One of my former players from Maryville College is the head football coach of McMinn Central.
Okay.
And they had a great win against Polk County. So it was a battle of 4-11.
Yeah.
And Coach Moody and his staff did a great job down there. So it was very enjoyable watching him and his team play and have a great game.
Good deal. Good deal. In prep volleyball, Maryville Christian is at Sweetwater, or they were at Sweetwater last night. I should ask them. Should ask them how
they had them right here.
Should ask them what the score was, because I couldn't find it. This article of interest: the Blount County Sports Hall of Fame announced its class of 2024 recently. The members that are going into the hall this year are Steve Bledsoe, Randall Cobb, Clint Bowling, Rick Maples, Nikki Porter, Marquita Porter-Smith, Mark Stinnett, Harry the Cat Wilson, and Mike Wilson. It's going to be a good class.
That's a really good class.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, 3 great teams of the past will also be honored in 2024. including the 1960-61 Walland High School boys basketball team, the 1999 Maryville High School girls basketball team, and the 2006 Heritage High softball team. The induction ceremony and banquet will be held on Monday, October the 28th. Monday, October 28th. That's coming up pretty soon, at 6:30 p.m. at the Airport Hilton.
Very
Always
good.
a great time over
Great
at
time.
the
Been there a
Sports
couple
Hall of
times
Fame
and all
banquet.
that. And like I said, I never heard of a guy named Randall Cobb. Did he do
Yeah,
that?
I think he's an obscure player that
yeah.
came out of Alcoa and did
He
fairly
did very
well
okay.
in
Turned
in
out
his
okay.
career.
Okay, good. I was
Sure did.
Just curious, didn't know very
Yeah.
much what he did. Okay, good.
Indeed. Randall Cobb, great player. Well, that's going to do it for the Mandy B Street Realty Local Scoreboard. And it's time to move on to the to a Player of the Week segment. So, Mike, you want to introduce that one, Player of the Week segment?
Yeah, it's sponsored by Anderson Lumber Company, and Marcus Fitzsimmons, he's set to go for that one, and I believe we got discussion on some Heritage football. Huh?
We're
And their
supposed
big
to.
win.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, that was really a good win by Heritage, and a lot of times you want to see how a team does after how they respond after a big loss, and with Heritage losing to Maryville the opening game, and Maryville really trounced them pretty good. You always wonder, well, is this just going to continue downhill
Is
slope?
it same old business as usual? But no, Heritage is an improved football team this year.
Sure. And they're always going to be tough, and they're always going to be physical. And so they came out and improved it. And they went, like I said, going to South Doyle, they had a good win against them. And obviously playing in this big game Thursday night, it was a good opportunity here for Blank.
Exactly.
For Heritage.
Televised game. So
Sure.
Thursday night game.
Oh, we've already gotten a Player of the Week. I've missed all the fun.
Yeah, we're at the Player of the Week. That's right,
rolling.
Marcus.
Well, let me just say, for those that are watching on camera, Player of the Week plaque. We're going to make sure this gets over to Heritage, and I think this week is going to be a team award because they had a. It'd be hard to pick out one of the 5 or 6 players who had really good games.
It sure would.
And kind of turned things against William Blunt, and I'm not sure Robbie Bennett doesn't need one for his excellent driving yesterday and bringing the bell back, and with Scott Cup in the back. If you haven't watched that on Facebook, you need to watch the video of Scott Cup doing the ride of shame. Scott's a little more entertaining. Scott's more entertaining in the back of the truck than Robbie is, because Robbie last year was very sullen. Scott was kind of entertaining.
Oh yeah, always is.
I mean, watching that game, you got the impression that both teams have still got. We're 3 games in the season, but they've got some young pieces that, if they can get them to take just this little bit of a step with their execution, that they could be really dangerous. Because Heritage has a lot more athleticism than they've had in a while. And Coach, I'm going to let you help me explain this.
Okay, you're on a roll right now.
In college, you can, in the NFL, you can hurdle a player.
Yes.
In high school, you cannot.
Correct, it's penalty.
And if you have seen the cover of the Sports Extra in the Daily Times e-edition this morning, the receiver from Heritage is 5.5 feet up in the air clearing that guy.
and no call.
No, he was flagged.
He was flagged.
So,
I got you.
So what was a 40-something yard gain turned into a 15-yard loss.
Wow.
But tremendous athleticism
Sure.
from him to make that play. So you can see the potential that Heritage has on the in some speed positions.
Yeah,
Right.
And I think that's kind of what's happened over at Heritage over the last 3-4 years. I mean, they've continued to work hard for the growth of the program, to attract players to come into the program, to get people in their district to go out for football. Because for a while, they struggled getting players to come out for the high school team. So they've done a good job attracting kids through the youth program, the middle school, and which now flows into the high school. And so coach has done a very nice job of getting that program to where now it's a team that you got to be prepared to play. It's not the Heritage of old where, all right, it's almost like a bye week. We're playing Heritage. Now that that's not the case now anymore.
Absolutely
and,
not.
And again, I'll say this. I mean, they got smashed pretty badly by Maryville first game of the season. How is that team going to respond? Well, then they go on the road and beat South Doyle. They went on the road again to beat William Blount. So to me, they've responded pretty well. And so, very proud of them. And let's see what happens next week.
Yeah, and there's a good point there. Is one thing you open the season against Maryville.
Sure.
And it's a mad Maryville team. We know that.
Yeah.
So that's not.
They are.
That's not the
good
best thing in the
characterization.
world. But when you look at that loss, 2 games further down the road, where you've got Bradley Central losing by nearly 40 last night and being shut out, in that same location to that same team.
Yeah.
You have Central not scoring on that team either. I mean, that loss doesn't look as bad 2 weeks later as it did that night.
No, absolutely not.
And I bet
Very
it looks.
good point.
I bet it doesn't really even register with. I mean, I'm sure they're still ringing that bell over there, and Wallen's probably still waking up with that this morning. But I think Heritage's big challenge is this district. You've got Powell and West, and I think they want to compete on that level, but that's a process to get there.
Correct.
But if you can get where you can get by Halls and Central so that you're the number 3 in that district, then you've made a great progression.
Correct.
You can do what baseball did in the spring when they changed districts. You can make some hay there and get yourself in a position to build on success. So I hope you'll see that from Heritage. But they get a big test with Powell coming in next week.
Yeah, they do.
And then, you still
Didn't Powell beat Oak Ridge?
I believe it's 21-7
Yes.
last night.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty damn good being Oak Ridge.
I mean, it's a good Powell team. Don't let I believe they lost to Anderson County the first week. Is that
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Anderson County
Well.
has proven to be a juggernaut this year.
They beat Bearden last night.
Yeah, sure did.
So
Bearden's gone on a little tough times right now. Losing to
we
Alcoa.
didn't. Well, we weren't here last week, so we couldn't talk about that win from Alcoa. But
Oh, yeah, that's right.
that
Yeah,
was, it's the Bearden team is exactly where they were a year ago at this point.
really.
They sure
They're
are.
1-2, the best 1-2 team in the state probably.
Yeah.
But
Let's talk about. Do we got time just to say the tail end of that game against Bearden and Alcoa? I mean,
that was one of the.
It was wild.
Were you there at the game?
I was on the sideline. It was one of
Okay.
the best endings to a game I think I've seen on the high school level in quite a while.
Yeah.
And part of it was because the celebration was going on from Bearden, and it took no regard for how much time was left on the clock.
Yeah. For people who don't know, Bearden scored with about 15 seconds left to go in the game.
I think there were 18 seconds left when they scored and decided to go for 2 to get the win.
Right.
They went for 2. They got the conversion. It was close, but they got it, and they started celebrating like it was over, like they had totally forgotten. There were
Still 18 seconds
They were
left.
still going to have to kick off. And
They're running on the field.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
coming in.
cameramen
Flooding
on the field. Flooding the field.
and that's the problem is they cost themselves 15 yards
Yeah,
on the
they did.
kickoff doing that.
Right.
So now you're kicking off from your own 20, and the ball.
They pooch kick.
Well, it was a pooch kick because they had no choice, really. I
Okay.
mean, even if they'd legged it out, it wasn't going much further than that.
Yeah.
Right.
But at that point, you're picking between which Alcoa return man is going to hurt me the least, and there's not a good choice.
Pick your poison
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there, huh?
And they kicked to Graff, but he's getting it at just like 35-yard line.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a fantastic fielding position.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gets a great set. Probably the most improved unit week 1 to week 2 across the region was their kickoff return team for Alcoa, which looked miserable against Ravenwood and looked fantastic against Bearden.
True.
And it was the same guys, just execution.
Yeah.
And they put up a wall and he was probably 2 steps from turning it into a touchdown.
Wow. Okay.
And got forced out of bounds, set up a field goal. And it's not, I mean, a 40-yard field
40,
goal is not
yeah.
a chip shot in
No,
high school,
high school,
and
sure.
he drilled it.
Oh, it would have been good from 50.
Tyson just absolutely drilled it, and he credited the work they've done during their summer and what they do every week, because Coach Nix is part of their process on Wednesday every week. He has to go out there in live formation, live kick, and kick two field goals from each of the three sides, one from the middle, one from the right, one from the left, from the 10 and the 20. So he's got like 6 kicks to make in live situation, and that exact thing for the very reason that they had the situation they had that came up, and it proved to be the game winner. He's like, Coach said, just do it like you do in practice. So I just went out and did it like I did in practice. I'm like, it doesn't get much easier than that if you're doing it. If you've already done it like 12 times already this season, doing number 13 wasn't that difficult.
But the key thing that you're saying is they've worked on this situation before.
Sure.
They had a good understanding what needed to be done. I was talking to Coach Gossett over there, and they, when they had to go ahead and return the kickoff, they talked about it real quick on how they're going to form their wall and all that, and they saw that they're going to pooch it, but they're going to pooch it to the right, so they slid their protection scheme over a little bit to the right, and it just worked out for them. So I mean, preparation and proper preparation usually causes great execution, and that's what happened. But what a great win for Alcoa.
And it was, and then I don't want to say they lose this week, but not being able to get an opponent and only having a 9-game schedule hurts.
Yeah,
because you've got a long break right now. Yeah. You were already going to have a long week because of the scheduling of that game. So
there's one way to solve that. No, don't be so good.
You got Greenville coming in on Thursday of this week for another rivalry Thursday game.
Thursday.
So, I'm assuming Mark Packer and Austin Price are going to be down there, and but let me give out my. We get a lot of help from a lot of people at the paper when it comes to getting some of the numbers together after the game. The Dunkels are fantastic at Alcoa.
They are.
Ken Main at Maryville, fantastic.
Yeah.
Those two are like the top of the ladder when it comes to helping everybody out and giving the coaching staffs what they need, because they can sit there and record on the computer, play by play. That frees up a coach from having to be in the press box doing that. They can concentrate on the game. And some of the smaller schools, they don't even have a coach that's available to do that. So having somebody that can do that for you is just such a big plus. So those guys are so great. And I feel, I got to give props to Heath because he called it in the press box. I went back to watch the last 2 minutes of the Alcoa game. Yeah. He called that don't celebrate, but don't give Alcoa the opportunity to come back on you. And it was just prophetic. Because that's exactly what they did.
You're right.
But, Donnie, you'll be there on Thursday night.
I will.
For the Alcoa Greenville game. And I guess we'll finish off William Blunt, and then we're going to give this back to Mike. But, William Blunt did not play bad. Or let me put it this way. William Blunt had some young players that let their inexperience show in a rivalry game, and it cost them big time. Mm-hmm. They had some that felt, I would say, I'll superimpose, looked like from the sideline they were a little bit dejected, not going 100%, left a huge hole that decided that game on the kickoff return for a touchdown. You had a huge gain, 78-yard touchdown wiped out because somebody 40 yards from the play pushes somebody in the back for no reason whatsoever.
Really? Oh, man.
You had several times where you had linemen, tight ends, backs not in the correct position, and you had a quarterback scrambling trying to figure out what's going wrong here. One of the William Blunt touchdowns, the first one, came on a busted play where quarterback went right and there was nobody there, and he had to go just make it up on his own and scramble up the middle. And it worked out, but that was not what was called.
No.
William Blunt, if they can get on the page, if they can get those guys on the page, there are wins to be had in their region. It's a very topsy-turvy. There is no given. You've seen a schizophrenic Dobbins-Bennett team that got shut out and blasted by Greenville and then turned around and blasted this past on Friday night. You've seen a Science Hill team that's been just the same way, that has looked really good and really bad in the first 3 weeks. So there are winnable games in this region for William Blount.
There are.
And, you've got Union County.
True that.
So,
who Heritage plays a little later on in the season.
and I'll throw this out, Mike. I'm going to give you one last note before we give this back because this has an official name what we're going into, doesn't it? Doesn't this thing have a name?
It does. It's, well, we're getting ready to go to the headlines segment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's brought to you, of course, as always, by
The
Fast
Fast
Signs.
So coming on fast is Greenback had another tough loss last night. They're down, I think, to 16 players that they could field healthily last night.
Yeah.
It sounds
Can't
like
even scrimmage.
It sounds like whatever has gone on with the firing of Coach Klember and having an interim coach. It sounds like they have some more players who have students who have stepped forward and say we will play, and that they are in heat acclimation and may possibly be available to play in week 4.
Good.
Which would be when you're playing with 16 or 17 guys, you've got guys playing every snap.
Yeah.
I hope that's the case. I hope they do have some.
Especially
kids
going
that
up to
step
Coalfield, which Coalfield's not going to.
Well, Coalfield, it was 60-0,
Yeah.
and it was bad. But
Yeah.
you've got the rest of the way. You've got a chance.
Okay.
The rest of these next 7 games. So, Donnie, you ready for headlines? Mike, you
Hey,
ready to talk?
before he gets to the headlines, and since we're on the high school sports right here, I want to make mention of something, and we don't have any commercials.
Right.
Very good lead.
We're not fighting
Very good
commercials this morning, but I want to inform our listeners out there. We're in the middle of Tennessee football season right now, but I want to tell you right now, Tennessee basketball is right in the middle of recruiting.
Yep.
And they started to where they could go and visit recruits last week or this past week. Tennessee is after a player in my hometown, Braylon Mullins from Greenfield, Indiana. He's a 6'5" wing player, and I'm going to tell you right now, you haven't heard much about him down here, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. He's a 6'5" guard wing player. He's got great range. He shoots the deep threes. He can take the ball to the bucket. He's very fluid. He's ranked 24th in the country on the recruiting list as of now. I talked to Tennessee assistant coach last week. They feel like he's in the category of a Dalton Connect, and that's pretty.
Really? And he's coming
I don't
out,
think
coming out of high school.
I don't think a coaching staff over there throws that kind of stuff out. Without
not lightly.
Hey, I'm telling you, but they're into it with this kid because here's who he's narrowed it down to. He's narrowed it to Indiana. This is his visits: Indiana, Connecticut, Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, Michigan, and Tennessee. He last week did away with Arkansas, Alabama, and Purdue. I mean, that's high cotton. Now, last week in Greenfield, all those schools came to Greenfield last week, their head coaches to see him.
Wow.
Tennessee,
Yeah.
they didn't just send Rick Barnes up there. He came with his whole staff to see this kid, which is pretty unusual.
Yeah.
That's how bad they're wanting him. I had contact with him last spring. When I talked to him, I said, "Hey, you need to come down to Tennessee and visit." And I'm saying, if you come, you need to come to the Alabama game. That will be a great weekend to come. Guess what weekend's he coming? The 3rd week in October for the Alabama weekend. You don't you don't think Tennessee's going to put on the deal for this guy that weekend? You couldn't ask for a better weekend for that for him to come in here.
Well, what they need to do is, and I'm assuming they walk them around and show them facilities. It's not just going to the game.
Yeah.
But they need to make sure to put him on the concourse in the arena so that he can get his picture made under the big banner of Mike Edwards up there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Sure. Greenfield connection right there.
Now, Mike, would you be okay if he wanted to play with your number?
He wears number 24, but he doesn't wear it because I wore 24. His dad wore 24. I think that's what it's all about. But Anyway, they had a good visit with him up there. Coach Polinsky called me, I think, Thursday morning and said, hey, we're sitting in the Pancake House in Greenfield eating breakfast. Unbelievable food. I said, I know just exactly where it is, and if you ordered omelets or anything of that nature, you're going to be taking a nap because they bring a lot of food out there. And but they are really they're not getting a lot of hype in all this because all the media up there and all the media that you see on ES, they're all hyping Connecticut and they're hyping Indiana and they're hyping Kentucky, and there's not much being said about Tennessee, but not so fast, my boys. There's not so fast because they've got an end down here, and he's coming to visit. He's turned down Calipari, he's turned down Alabama, and he's turned down a good Purdue program. But he's got the Vols on October the 28th, and he's only got one other visit left after that, and that's Kentucky. And it's best to have a recruit on the tail end than it is on the front end.
Absolutely, yeah.
And anyhow.
Well, you can set him up for an interview here. Bring him on over here.
I'm telling you right now, I'm excited about it. And, of course, Indiana's bringing their basketball team down here the last of October. They're supposed to be in line to challenge for the Big Ten championship, so that's kind of exciting. But I'm a little bit I'd love to see this kid come down here and play. And if you get a chance, you can watch him play. Just punch in Braylon Mullins on YouTube, and you'll see, they've got a lot of highlights of him. But he's a player. I mean, he can shoot it from 30, 35 feet, take it to the bucket, dunk it, flip. I mean, he's the real thing, guys. And
can
I'm
he
excited.
Pass the moniker though?
Huh?
He might I know sometimes we have players who talk about numbers and playing a certain number, but he's from the same town. Can the nickname be transferred? If Bob Kessling started referring to him as the Greenfield Gunner.
Greenfield Gunner, too.
I don't know whether I want to give up that nickname to him. I think I want to keep the nickname.
You got
he can
patent
wear the number.
on it.
He can wear the number if he wants to. I don't care. Yeah, but I'm excited for him to come down here and visit. And they've got a lot to sell here. They got a great arena over there, and they got a Hall of Fame coach, and it's a great environment, great fan. I mean, listen. I'm not counting the Vols out right here, and I'm listening to all this hype on the internet from all these other schools and so forth. But anyway, Tony, you'll appreciate this. You know where he is today?
Where?
He's in Ann Arbor to watch Texas and Michigan today.
Oh, he'd be at a good place.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Well, I didn't mean to go on a recruiting bench here, but I think
you did.
I think it's interesting.
Yeah, you did.
I think it's interesting stuff, and I'm kind of looking forward to it.
This segment's going to be sent over to him.
Yeah.
And to let him know that there's a lot of love down here in Tennessee for him.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, Donnie.
right.
I'm done with my recruiting. It's all yours.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Let's get right into the sports headlines for the week, brought to you, of course, by Fast Signs. Well, UFC star Conor McGregor said on social media Thursday that he is considering a run for the presidency of the Republic of Ireland. Yep, you heard it right. McGregor.
Do what?
Yeah,
Ireland.
the Republic of Ireland. He's considering running for president.
I smell Blarney.
Well,
Sitting here
we'll
somewhere.
see here. He says McGregor, who has not competed in MMA since July of 2021, wrote this on X, formerly known as Twitter. As president, I would hold the power to summon the Dáil, which is the lower
legislative body.
legislative house of Ireland. Yeah, the Dáil Éireann. The Dáil Éireann. He said, but I would hold the power to summon the Dáil as well as dissolve it.
Dissolve it.
Mm-hmm. The Dáil
That is-
Éireann is the
Ireland
principal
has a very
chamber.
Unique constitution.
They got what?
Ireland has a very unique constitution.
they
It's
do.
kind of a blend between the U.S. and the U.K.
The Dáil is the principal chamber of the Irish legislature. He went on to say, this is a quote, I would have all the answers the people of Ireland seek from these thieves of the working man, these disruptors of the family unit, these destructors of small businesses, and on and on and on. These charlatans in their positions of power would be summoned to answer to the people of Ireland, and I would have it done by day's end.
Wow.
Are we
Brash,
sure this
yeah,
isn't,
yeah.
are we sure this isn't a commercial for his whiskey distillery?
Wow. That's some pretty brash talk right there.
Yeah. He's
Wonder if people would vote for him.
Oh yeah, they'd go for
Bet
it.
they would.
Yeah,
I don't know. I give Irish people more credit than that.
you think so?
Well, two-time World Cup winner Alex Morgan, 35, announced on Thursday that she is retiring from soccer. Her final game will be tomorrow. Morgan, a member of the U.S. women's national team, is also the winner of an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah.
And she's out. She's had enough.
35 years. I mean, she's 35 years old.
Yes.
And she's won.
Her last game's this weekend, right?
Yeah, it's tomorrow. San Marino. You ever heard of the country of San Marino?
It's a very, very small place.
It is a micronation.
Mediterranean.
It's around Italy, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah. But San Marino, who hadn't won a soccer game since April 2004, has done it. The country of San Marino, a micronation with a population of only about 35,000 people, held the longest losing streak in international soccer, 140 games.
Man,
Sounds like Friendsville Academy, doesn't it?
Tony.
Well, Academy. I said Friendsville Academy. That all came to an end yesterday when they defeated Liechtenstein 1-0.
Oh.
San Marino was the lowest ranked nation in the world. But congratulations to the
Are you
country
sure
of
that's a
San Marino.
win?
Yep.
Liechtenstein, isn't that the fake country from the jousting movie?
No, it's a legitimate.
Okay.
It's a legitimate country. It's very small as well.
Liechtenstein's looking for a new head coach now.
Yeah, I'd say you're right. After being listed as questionable for playing in Week 1 of the NFL season, Steelers quarterback Russell Wilson has said he hopes to be able to face the Falcons in Pittsburgh's season opener. Wilson sustained a calf injury during the preseason. We'll see.
I was watching the Packer game last night, and the second last play of the game, their quarterback hurt his knee and
Love?
Yeah, hurt his knee and ankle and all that.
Yeah.
Walked off the field, so he's going to be very questionable.
That's
next
true.
week or two.
Well, the NFL's new dynamic kickoff rules had little impact in Thursday night's season opener between the Ravens at the Chiefs. The new rules were intended to encourage more kickoff returns, but out of the 11 combined kickoffs in the game, 9 resulted in touchbacks. Yeah. The rules spot the ball at the 30-yard line instead of the previous 25. The average starting field position Thursday night was the 29-yard line, which is nearly exactly what the average was during the preseason. Guess it's safe to say that teams will be content to kick the ball into the end zone and give the opponents the ball at the 30.
As well, I mean, they've just eliminated kickoff. That's what they've done. Kickoff returns.
They moved it. If they moved the kickoff point back 5 yards, they'd still kick it in the end zone. These NFL kickers are really something. Well, with all the conference realignment going on, probably no conference has been refurbished like the Big 12. There are now 16 members of the Big 12 Conference, with the addition of 4 Pac-12 programs over the offseason. Last season, the conference had 14 members, including Texas and Oklahoma, before they bolted for the SEC. BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF, Central Florida, joined last season, and on August 2, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah officially joined the conference. The current members are, and there are 16 of them, remember, Arizona, Arizona State, Baylor, BYU, Cincinnati, Colorado, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas Tech, UCF, Utah, and West Virginia.
And if that's not impressive enough, in the first top 25 that came out, they got one school in the top 25.
Really, that's it.
Yeah,
Wow.
Utah. That's it.
So
Utah.
basically, you've got a conference.
Yeah.
That outside of, I don't know why you want to keep Cincinnati in, but okay, I'll give you one gimme. So basically, you've got a conference that you can go out to the desert. you can go to the coast, and you can go to Florida.
Yeah,
So you can sell that,
it's the Big 12.
and you can.
That's
sell,
true.
You
If
can
you
sell
like
that
to travel,
recruits.
play football in the Big 12.
Well, it's travel, but you don't have to go out to the West Coast.
no.
But you get to go to the beach at least 3 times a year.
Oh, yeah, you do.
And it's not even 12 teams.
Nope,
16.
16.
Well, that's
16.
never bothered the Big Ten.
No, that's
No.
true.
Yeah, but Big Ten had good teams. They can do it whatever they want.
Well,
Big 12.
answer this question for me rhetorically. Why is Northwestern going to play football this season on a field surrounded by temporary bleachers with a seating capacity of only 12,000?
They were on last night. Played
Yeah.
Duke.
They were.
Yeah, because it's Northwestern.
Well, in 2022,
No one cares.
Northwestern
Hey, no one
announced
cares.
it would tear down Ryan Field, its home since 1926, and build a new stadium on the site in Evanston, Illinois. Demolition started in February and continues to this day. In its place will be another Ryan Field, although this new one bears little resemblance to the old one. With a price tag of $800 million, all from private funds, they say, the new digs will hold only 35,000 fans, down from their current seating capacity of 47,000, but will be rife with creature comforts such as a canopy, chair back seats for every fan, high-tech scoreboards and concessions featuring food from local restaurants. Hang in there, Wildcats. Better times are ahead.
Hey, I'll tell you, you kind of, snicker at them a little bit, but, they compete with what they got in the Big Ten pretty well. They were 8-5 last year, and they won a bowl game. So
Yeah, they do.
So,
An easy boy for every fan, a butler for every desire.
whatever.
But this season, they're playing on the intramural field, right?
They're
Soccer
playing
field,
it.
Soccer
they're,
field?
They're yeah, I think it's
I
the
think it's
soccer,
soccer
field.
field.
It's the
Yeah, they were on last night. It looked
couple,
like a high
named
school
after
game.
a couple. Martin.
Yeah.
Looked like a high school
Who,
game.
who won? Who won that game? Danny?
I don't know. I
Northwestern?
turned it off in the first quarter.
Who was it? Northwestern.
Northwestern.
Duke.
Yeah.
I'll look it up here
Yeah.
and tell you in a minute.
Have to have high GPAs to be in that game.
Yeah. Well, that's all for this week's sports headlines, brought to you, as always, by Fast Signs. Back to you, Gunner.
Okay, let's talk some UT football. And Tony, the number 14 Tennessee got number 24 North Carolina State tonight in Charlotte. That game can be seen on ABC at 7:30.
Yeah.
Tony, it started out at a 10-point line, and after seeing North Carolina State struggle against Western Carolina, I thought, golly, 10 points, surely Tennessee's going to beat them by more than 10. And,
Yeah.
and then I get up this morning, take a look at it, it's 8.5.
Uh-oh,
So
something's happened.
would you tell me what's going on, buddy? I'm lost here.
I don't know. That's kind of what I thought it would be.
We put 69 points up, and North Carolina State needed 2 scores and late in the fourth quarter to beat Western Carolina. And
Not
and
Carolina, Western Carolina.
Yeah, Western Carolina, and we're an 8.5-point favorite. So,
Well, it's who knows in terms of the point spread and all that like that. But I just think that it's going to be a good game. I think Tennessee's going to hold off and win the game. But NC State's always they're always very competitive. I mean, they're not going to.
Well, they're picked to challenge for the ACC championship this year.
Yeah.
A lot of people's got them picked to win it.
Well,
So-
yeah, and the coach, I believe Coach Dorr is the head coach over there.
Yeah, and he was interviewed for this job.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Here at Tennessee.
he was well respected. Has been there for about a dozen years, and he's run a very solid program and all that. And so, like I said, I think it's just going to be a good game. I think Tennessee, though, I think I think they'll pull it out.
Marcus, I assume then that we can think that North Carolina State last week against Western Carolina was looking past the Catamounts, is that their name? Looking
Yeah,
past the
West Carolina.
Catamounts
That's right.
to the Volunteers, and just didn't show up to play. Is that the way you figure it?
I think that's the way their fans figure it. No. Well, Eastern Carolina's a higher quality feeding animal than an FCS team.
Western.
Western. Okay. Does it matter?
Western
It's still
Carolina.
playing on a different level.
Yeah, East and West are both pretty
I mean,
good.
they're
Pirates.
they're not. They're a better opponent than a Chattanooga, in my opinion. So that doesn't mean it excuses you struggling against them the way they did. I was watching that one at halftime. I was wondering if that was going to be our upset game of the day because it was not looking good. So, but I think any coach will tell you this, Tony, am I wrong, that between week 1 and week 2 is when you make your most improvement?
Yeah, that's right. That's where you look at.
I think that some of the more obvious things that went wrong for the Wolfpack are going to look a lot better today.
Yeah.
On the fundamental level of where execution didn't happen, not on talent, you don't improve talent, but on some of the silly things they did, I think will be much better today when Tennessee.
Tony, I looked at this game as being a little tougher game before the season started.
Yep.
In fact, I was thinking, well, it may just rank a little bit low because we need some points.
Sure.
If we're going to the playoffs, we got to have some games here. And right now, we've talked about Oklahoma, Alabama, and Georgia, with Florida not looking too good, and we don't know about Arkansas. They play Oklahoma State today, so that may be if they could get them out there, that game could maybe get Tennessee some points if they go down there and win it. But North Carolina State, you would like to maybe take care of business tonight, and them to really do well in the ACC.
Sure.
To gain some points, but they're going to have some of that if they're going to get into the playoffs, don't you think? Huh?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and like I said, I think NC State's going to go ahead and play a good game. And it's like Marcus said, I mean, that usually that big improvement's between week 1 and week 2. And so whatever caused them to not play as well against Western Carolina, they're going to work hard to fix it. I just think it's going to be a good competitive game, but I think at the end, I think Tennessee has a little bit more talent.
Do you think the game boils down to maybe the strength of the offensive and defensive line, and Tennessee's defensive line, pretty strong, and their offensive line looked, better than I think a lot of people thought it was going to be in that first game.
Right.
So do you think that's the big difference right there up front, with the offensive line and defensive line in this game?
Yeah,
with
and they've got very good coaches on both sides of the ball, coaching the line. And so they've worked them hard to get themselves ready, especially the improvement that's expected from that offensive line. And so I think and Nico coming up in this be a big game for me as well. And so I think it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a tough competitive game. It's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be them playing against Chattanooga. And but I think Tennessee's just going to have just a little bit more to pull that game out.
Marcus, the secondary of Tennessee's, one of the question marks. But the offense for North Carolina State, their quarterback against West, didn't show me that he can throw the ball well enough to hurt Tennessee back there in that secondary.
That's the one I'm curious about. I want to see what NC State does and how they come after Tennessee's secondary, because that's if you're going to pick your poison, I mean, that's the one that kind of stands out.
Yeah, that's the one you should pick.
I mean, I wouldn't want to test Tennessee's defensive front by making him sit back there for a 4 count before he throws the ball. So I'm kind of going towards. I expected to see a lot of screen passes, a lot of quick passes from them, especially at first, to see if they can get a read on Tennessee.
Yeah.
And if it was me, I would look what Tony was talking about earlier, mesh and cross sort of things, because I don't want to pick on the corners. I'd rather try to pick on safeties in the middle.
Yes.
Because I think that's the biggest question marks Tennessee has, are on the safety positions.
Tony, I think if Tennessee jumps out there with a couple of early scores and they force North Carolina State to start throwing the football, I think this football game's over.
Right. I mean, that's.
I think that North Carolina State's going to have to run the ball, control the clock, try to keep Nico off of the field as much as possible.
Yeah.
Get behind, have to throw, play catch up. I think it's going to be a long night for them.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, so it's and again, Coach Odor over there at NC State, you know, those guys are going to be very well coached. They're going to be solid and everything. But if it, you look at the talent level, I just think Tennessee's got more talent level, so that if things kind of break down early in the game, I don't think NC State's got the ability to catch up and overcome.
But it's a big game for North Carolina
Oh, yeah.
State. Listen, they're big. They're an underdog going in, and they got a lot to prove, especially if they didn't play well the first game. So
Right, and a lot of people picking them to make a run for the ACC championship.
And they're playing over.
Given
North.
what we've seen, who else would you pick? I mean, you're not going to pick Clemson.
Miami's a force to be reckoned with.
Well, you got Miami,
Miami.
but you still got divisions play to work out
that's
there.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I think it's important Tennessee win,
Yeah.
not just for their own goals, but given what happened with Florida, given what happened with A&M, I think you need Tennessee and Texas to both win today from the conference prestige standings to keep things moving in the right direction when they start adding up numbers between conference plays.
Just real quick, keep an eye on the Syracuse Georgia Tech game. I mean, I got a feeling. I think Syracuse. I think they're going to have a good team. They got the transfer quarterback who was a starting quarterback at Ohio State last year. All right. Georgia Tech has started off very well, but they're going up to Syracuse to play up at their place, which is always kind of a tough game to play. And keep an eye on that game. If there's a potential for an upset, I think it could be that game.
I think surprises
Heard it
last
first
week.
right here on the sports page.
I think in surprises
Well,
last
they lose
week,
by 59-0.
Vandy's win over Virginia Tech. I think that was a big win for
God.
Vandy last week, and
That's the win
Notre
of the
Dame
century
going
right
down
there.
to Texas A&M. I think that was a pretty big win for them, and also Southern Cal. Beating LSU.
Absolutely.
I think those three, to me, were marquee games that.
I mean, for the first week of the season.
for the first week of the season.
Those were really good games.
And the biggest disappointment, you'd have to go with Florida and Florida State, wouldn't you? I mean,
I would think so.
for the first week, and most dominant Georgia.
Yeah.
I think Georgia just looks like they're another.
They're already talking about firing the head coach over at Florida, and paying him $29 million not to coach.
I don't think he survives this season.
I'm not sure he survives this month.
Yeah. Florida's been known to.
I think week in and week out, we used to look at the Southeastern Conference, but I think week in and week out, we need to just concentrate on the top 12, in college football because it's all about the playoffs in it this year, for the most part. So you got Georgia number 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Alabama 4, Notre Dame 5, Mississippi 6, Oregon 7, Penn State 8, Missouri 9, Michigan 10, Utah 11, and Miami 12. And then, of course, Southern Cal, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State all looking in there. But, the big game today, Texas and Michigan, that's going to affect them, those two. But,
And be careful just to make sure that Michigan's not stealing any signals. Or that guy's not there anymore.
No, actually, their current head coach is part of that investigation. He was named in the NCAA letter of notice of violation.
But outside of that, all the other games in that top 12 are, they're
There's a reason Tennessee.
going to look at it and say, they put up 50 points. They put up 60
games.
points. So-and-so scored 70 points.
How about that?
But anyway, in the breakdown, there's 5 SEC schools, 4 Big Ten schools, and I don't think there's any argument there. A lot of people think those are the 2 best conferences, so, it's pretty even. ACC only 1, Big 12 1, and 1 independent. Tony, how many losses can you have and still getting in the top 12, you think? I mean, there's a long way to go. But
I think, obviously, if you lose more than 2 games, you're not going to be in there. I think you probably have maybe about 8 or 9 teams, maybe with 1 loss, maybe 1
with 2.
And that'd be it. But it'd be like
3's going to be.
Yeah,
3's going to put.
Yeah.
3's going to put you out.
It would be like if Tennessee would lose to Georgia and Alabama, which are probably considered in your top 5. I could see them still sneaking in at number 12.
That's
or something
entirely possible.
Yeah.
By the way, Mike, I researched that Duke Northwestern game last night, and it went to overtime.
Really?
Oh, did it?
Should have stayed up and watched that.
Duke won 26-20 in OT.
Wow.
26-20.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I got to run. I got to go to game here, but it's great seeing everyone once again. And
All right, Tony.
thank you very
Good
much.
to have you.
And,
Glad you're here, Tony.
it's always good. All right. I'll see you soon.
Take care.
Yeah. Hey, I want to remind everybody and all of our listeners out there, you're listening to radio station WKCE 92.5 FM and 1180 AM on your radio dial. The station that plays the greatest music ever produced. WKCE is my radio station, and I hope you'll make it yours.
Make it yours.
Well, I don't think
That's
we've
right.
had a station ID today, have we? So
No, we haven't. So you
there it
did
is.
good.
There it is. So anyhow, well, I was going to talk to Tony a little bit about Carson Newman football. So he's left. We got about 10 minutes left, Donnie. I think
We got about 2 minutes in this segment, and then about 10 minutes. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Let's talk about some big games here, Marcus, today. Texas is at Michigan. Texas is a 6.5-point favorite going up there to the Big House. And, I like these games. I like these southern schools going up there to play them northern schools. You don't see much of that. Usually, I used to kid Lonnie and Ray and some of them. I'd say, well, Alabama, they'll play Michigan, but, they want to play them down there in Atlanta. or Arkansas will play Ohio State, but they want to play down there in where the Cowboys play, down in Texas or somewhere like that on a neutral site. But, I like to see these teams going to the schools and playing. I like Notre Dame, going down to the Texas A&M, playing on campus.
Right.
So... Or maybe they didn't. I think they played. No, they played it in Jerry's Dome, didn't they? I think so.
Yeah, I believe they did. Now that you mention it,
I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe they. I think.
Lots of
No, I think
places
it was
play.
on campus. I think it was at Texas A&M. But anyway, Texas is going up. They're playing at Michigan. Both of them are 1-0. Texas is ranked 4th, and Michigan number 9. Texas is a 6.5-point favorite. It's on the SEC Network starting at 12:45. Marcus. What do you think? Michigan's the defending national champion.
Well,
They
you're
can move on. They can move on up
champion,
the line with a win here today.
defending national champion with how many players left? It either transferred
Yeah.
out or graduated or were drafted. I mean, they're not returning a whole lot of that lineup.
No. They played
So-
Fresno State last week, beat them 30-10, but that was about as far ahead as they were.
Yeah.
In that game
And,
against Fresno State.
Fresno State's a decent cupcake if you're opener. I mean, it's not going to be too sweet. So, I mean, it's a good way to start, and I think it worked for Michigan. But wow, you watch some of the things that went on in that game, and Michigan's got a lot of room to improve.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
But let's say it this way: if you see Arch Manning today, it's going to be either really good or really bad for the Longhorns.
That's true. Because he doesn't get in the game very often, does he?
But he looked good in the opener.
He always does, yeah.
Texas is, are they back? Texas is back. They had a good year last year, and you'd have to consider them as a playoff team. But, man, if you look at their schedule and Oklahoma's schedule, they didn't do them any favors, when they brought them into the Southeastern Conference. I mean, they're playing some teams, and then they're up there today playing at Michigan. That's not a breather in it by any stretch of the imagination. So –
I could say something, but I don't want to be the guy picking on the new kid in the lunchroom. So,
yeah, welcome to the SEC. Let us give you a few games here to think about.
I mean, if I start hearing some more about this other UT thing, if that starts popping up, we may have to backtrack on that. But
Yes.
Okay. So, but I think it's a good. It'll be. I mean, I think it could be a really good game. I expect it to be a good game, but I also expect Texas to pull that out, even though it's in the Big House.
Hey, Arkansas's at Oklahoma State. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to take a look at that. It's on ABC at 12 o'clock. Oklahoma State is a 10-point favorite. Oklahoma State's number 17 in the country. Arkansas is unranked. They had a win at home, and their hopes are they've made some changes down there, and I think Petrino's back, isn't he? Bob Petrino's back.
He is
down there at Arkansas. So they got a little life down there.
skyrocketing.
This is a huge game for them you know, if they could come out of this game today in Oklahoma State, you know, build them a little momentum, there's a game that Tennessee could look as a resume builder when they go down to Fayetteville. Huh?
I mean, I think if you're an SEC team, you're obviously rooting for Arkansas. But you know, Petrino's back at Arkansas, and we'll see. But I mean, I don't want to go to the level that the Arkansas fans are, you know, buying leather jackets and motorcycles and pretending like it's the old days. It was one game.
Yeah.
You know, it's a long haul from one game to beating a top 25 team.
I liked Arkansas State's coach remark last week. Gundy, is that his name? Gundy?
Gundy.
Yeah, Gundy out there at Oklahoma State, kind of a character. Told his players, don't ask me for any more money. You want more money, go mow some grass. I like that. Huh? What do you think? You get tired of hearing that money deal with players? You just told them to go mow grass. Like the old days, mow grass and bale some hay. Get some extra money.
There you go.
Hey, Houston is at Oklahoma. Houston in the past, golly, he's had some good football, but not so much right now. Oklahoma, 27.5-point favorite at home today against Houston. Welcome to the Big 12.
No kidding.
Huh?
Goodness gracious.
7:45 on the SEC network. That's kind of odd saying, hey, Oklahoma's on the SEC network, but they are tonight.
Yeah, and, well, you know, you do get some perks with it. You don't have to be on the Longhorn Network to get your game on the air.
Yeah. South Carolina 1-0 is at Kentucky. Kentucky 1-0. Kentucky's an 8.5-point favorite on ABC at 3:30, and I'm telling you, they're a little apprehensive over there in Gamecock country after they walloped Old Dominion last week, 23-19 at home, expecting a big show out against with the Gamecocks to start the year, and that's not what they were looking for. On the other hand, Kentucky, it was all you know, they had a storm up there,
That's
and
right,
they delayed the game. They didn't have a halftime. They kept the teams up. Do you know that? They kept the teams up on the field for 10 minutes and then started the second half because it was running so late.
And they never finished it.
Well, it was 31-0 against Southern Miss.
I know, but it ended after the third quarter. The teams never came back.
Is that right? Well, there you go. So Kentucky's at home against South Carolina today, and if South Carolina loses up there big, then there's another coach that you can put on the hot seat. You put on the hot seat watch list, huh? After a couple of games.
Yeah.
They don't even think the coach at Florida down there, Billy Napier's going to make it up here to Knoxville. If he don't straighten up, that he's not even going to. He's not even last to come to Knoxville.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Marcus? Should we take a poll and see how many people think that he's going to show up?
I have yet to see. I'll take that back. Unless you are Nick Saban and you are already holding multiple national championship trophies, there is no other coach in the country who it is a good idea to start turning on your fan base and calling them out. And doing so in the dude hiding in his trailer. That was the guy hiding in his trailer calling in. When you start picking on your fan base like that, you've already put one foot out the door, whether you just won or not.
Sayonara.
Yeah.
And so that means that the conversation has taken place where he has been told boosters are turning against you. Because when that happens, that's when coaches start turning on the fan base.
Yep. Hey, Baylor's at number 12 Utah. Utah's a 15-point favorite. Utah ranked number 12. You know, there's a program out there. You think, hey, how in the world is Utah? Where do they get their players? You know, Utah, all that snow. Most of the people in Utah, they ski and stuff. You know,
right.
And but they've done a heck of a job. But they're on Fox at 3:30 today, and so we'll see how they.
BYU, and you got some players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Donnie, you guys don't like for me to push in the Indiana schools.
Okay.
The Hoosiers, you know, hired the coach from James Madison.
Yeah, they did.
2-0, won big last night. So they've only got 4 more to go to get bowl eligible. They just need 6 wins to get bowl eligible. Donnie, blow the whistle.
Go Vols.
All right. Hey, that'll do it for today's edition of the GoTee Sports Page. Thanks to Aaron Ishmael back at Loud Media, our host of the Blue Tick Tavern, and all our sponsors. For Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons, until next Saturday, this is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, wishing everyone good sports.